Hi guys, welcome back. Okay, so we've wasted a fair bit of time this morning running around Bunnings trying to find fittings and pipe, because in this episode the weather's pretty ordinary. Not going to get a lot of body work done and I'm bored of sanding, so I was going to try and build a what do you call them, like a water manifold trap thing for the compressor. Had it planned out in my head, got to Bunnings and they had absolutely jack all of what we were after. So yeah, not a massive fan of Bunnings. Wasted probably a good hour and a half walking around to work out they had one of each fitting or half of each fitting that I needed, and it was just a waste of time. So we ended up finding a little hardware store local in Browns Plains, and he had everything and it was cheaper. And we were out of there in about 20 minutes, if that, after we made our mind up which way we wanted to go. So I've got all of that stuff. We'll get back to the house, we'll get it started, and there's a bit of an update on some new shiny bits for the XA to put aside, and we're slowly gathering all the bits for the motor and the bits and pieces we're after. So yeah, wait and see what we got. See you soon. Okay, so we're back from Bunnings and we gave up there, like I said, and we went to the little home hardware store and we got our bag of fittings that we needed and a bit of copper pipe to go along with the copper pipe I've got left over from some scrap. So we're going to try and build a water trap manifold, basically, to come off the compressor as the main feed into the airline into the shed, and then that'll do the bulk of the water removal and moisture removal in the airline, and then you got water traps at each outlet in the rooms. So we should have, hopefully by the end of it, no moisture coming out of the airlines when we get to the tools or the guns. So we've got that. I'm going to go through a little tool that we've tried making up out of some scrap steel at work. It's a little slapping hammer. So just can't find any to buy, and we thought we'd give it a shot at making them. So we're part way through doing that. And the other bit is we got some parts for the XA turn up. So this will give you an idea of where we're looking at going with the car and what we're looking at doing with it. I want to try and build the XA how I wanted to build one when I was 16 back in the 80s. So back then, if you think about Fords, you had Howard Astle building things like Rock Solid, and that car when it came out, just as a kid, made me go, yeah, wow, that's what I want. So XA, wasn't keen on the wheels he ran, but that was his choice, and the colour was a bit off, not really what I'm going to do with this one, but the stance of it, the look of it, the way it was built, and the motor. So small block, well, not small block, Cleveland 351 tunnel ram. And if you look back to that era, 70s, 80s, guys that were, I suppose, the go-to people that were building 351 Clevelands, you had guys in drag racing like Jack Roush, and the one I always really looked up to and like really followed was Bob Glidden. And what those guys were doing in pro stock was small cube Clevelands, so 351, and some of the classes they'd de-stroke them down smaller to make the cars fit into a class where they'd be competitive, and they were high revving aspirated small blocks with tunnel rams. So what we had turn up the other day was the last one I was actually able to find in Australia at the moment. Been looking for a while, and the way the Aussie dollar was headed, trying to get them out of the US, which you still can at a reasonable price. Our Aussie dollar isn't worth jack, really. So Eagle Performance down in Melbourne had one, and it was the last one they had, and everywhere else I tried came up zilch. So which way's front and which way's back? That way. So that's what we're going to try and put onto, or that's what we are going to put onto this, which is why we've got the second bonnet, so we don't cut up the good factory OE bonnet that was on there. That one will be built up as a GT style bonnet and then done, prepped, painted, everything, so it will be able to go on the car if we need to, and then hung up on the wall in the shed. This is the setup that's going to go on the car to run it, unless we get a ticket and get told to pull it off and go back to a single barrel. Then we've got the unmodified bonnet that can go back on, but this is what the car is being built for. So wind dual floor high rise. I'll grab his down if I can unhook this without dropping the battery pack. Here we go. So yeah, that was the whole thought process behind the start of this car. It was never not going to have it, but we were looking like it was going to be really hard to find. And like when you look down there, the clear shot that you get straight down onto the top of the intake valves, not great for a street car, I suppose, but it's not going to be daily driven, so we can tolerate that, and it's going to be the look we were after. So we won't be going obviously like the race cars guys were running like twin dominators and stuff like that. That's just not practical. Probably not even going to go dual 4-barrel carbs. It's looking more and more like, I'll just hold this so I don't drop it. It's looking more and more like we're going to go probably something along the lines of maybe a dual Sniper 2 from Holly or something like that. Give it a little bit more up-to-date manners and go from there. So a couple of guys I've spoken to that have run those setups and use them reckon they're really good. You do hear some bad issues and bits and pieces, but to be honest, a lot of that looks like it's installer error. So yeah, so that's our thought process behind that. So pretty chuffed. Been waiting to find one of those for ages and it finally turned up. So I'm going to pop this back over here. We'll get our bits and pieces out and we'll start on this water trap manifold. Okay, so I've laid the fittings out just to try and get into my head what we're doing, and from the inlet we're going to have a male Nitto fitting that winds into that nipple, and we've got a wall mount unit with a compression fitting that'll go from there to that T-piece. We're going to run a tap at the bottom to drain that drop leg out. That drop leg we're going to make 1 meter long, because we've got 3 meters in the roll and a bit over 1.5 meters in the scrap. So 1 meter drops at every one, and there'll be 1, 2, 3, 4 drops. So from that T-piece where the tap is, it's going to come across to this 90 to go up, and we're going to jog that fitting up a little bit. So any moisture collected will go down to there, pull in that and out the tap when we drain it. Then it'll go 90 across to here, drop down to another tap, and then we'll jog that up a little bit again, so it goes up into this 90 and up to where we'll have a pressure regulator with a water trap on the end of that. So, and that'll be the manifold that we mount on the wall, and then from there that'll run through the fittings along to the rooms, and each one of those rooms where we tap off the wall will have a pressure regulator for that cycle and a water trap on it as well. So hopefully on a humid day we won't be getting any more moisture into any of the fittings. So I'm going to straighten that roll of copper out, and we're going to cut our 1 meter lengths up, and we'll start assembling it and show you where we go from there. Okay, so we've got all the pieces cut. I'm going to grab a short one first, because the inlet and the outlets are not going the full meter drop like there's 2 in the center. So slide that on there. So we're going to wind our ball valves on. Yep, that's the way I want it there. See if we can go one more turn. So that should seal. Where's the other one? Down here. Okay, so that's our two water drains. Now we just got to seal up the inlet. So we'll put some thread tape on that, seal that up. We'll get the regulator onto that side, seal that up, and then we'll run it for a test. Okay, so we've got the compressor hooked up and we've adjusted the pressure to 40 psi just for a low pressure test at the moment. And I've just got it resting up here. Now, obviously it needs to be stable, so we're going to have to mount those fittings to the wall and stuff like that when we finally put it in place. But all of the fittings are airtight. So, and no pressure on this regulator. It's at 0, but water trap's working. Now we'll see what we can get here. That air leak you can hear is the other regulator slash water trap on the wall taking up because it was empty. We'll put this one on, where are we? It'll only go to about 3840 because that's all we've got in the system, so that's working good. Now that one we want to sit on about, say 60 psi when we're spraying, so that way when we get into the room we can regulate it down and the supplied pressure is higher than what we're actually going to use, and it should stay stable. So if I now get this one up to maximum, where are we? 20, 40, 60, I should have my glasses, 60, 70, so there we go. That compressor is now set at 80, and no air leaks, can't hear anything. Check what's going on over here. So again, No air leaks. Our ball taps down the bottom for our drains are airtight. This one's now jumped up to 50. So we'll give it 60 psi and we'll let it sit like that for a few minutes and just see if it's got any slow leaks. So while that's doing that, I'll clean up and we'll go and show you where we're at with the fender on the XK. Okay, so the fender has been sitting since last weekend and that's all hardened up and it's been blocked back. So now what I've done, while we're waiting for that that air manifold to, I don't know, sit and hold pressure and work out whether it's going to leak or not, I've pulled a little bit of filler out, and what I'm going to start doing now is working. I'll probably put filler the whole way around, but it's really only needed from there to there. The rest we'll just do a light coat on, and then we'll get in after that's set and we'll sand it to give our edge to the outer, put some shape in. Once that's done, then we've got to do the return back on the inside. So, and by then, hopefully, when this is all ready to sand, we can run in, use the DA, and that will give us a test of whether that manifold is going to work and hold any of the moisture out, because today is raining on and off, so if it's gonna get something, today will be the day. So I'll pull some of this filler out. I won't mix all of it yet. Start with that bit. I think this one's starting to show a little bit of age, that tin of filler. It's getting a bit thick. I could mix a bit of fiberglass resin through it to try and thin it out a little, but we'll just try it how it is for the moment. It's not a hot day, so hopefully it should work through all right. So now, which one I'm going to use? Small applicator. All right. So if we just get in and get some on, don't worry about being too neat. Obviously you don't want to make a mess of it, but because then it's going to make it an absolute nightmare to sand off. But if I just start by getting it on, I suck at this so badly. Okay, so that's all fully mixed. So now we'll try and that. Oh, that wasn't what I wanted, was it? Okay. I think we stay out of that before I totally destroy it. Okay, so this I'll just wipe where these pinholes are to clean it off. Alright, we'll leave that at that, let it harden up, and we'll show you what we did. Okay, so we've cleaned up for the night, and we were running the DA for a fair while because we ended up deciding to do a skim coat of filler over the whole front section of the fender where the fiberglass fill had been. So we've done the front eyebrow, all over the outer face, de-ate all of that and hand sanded it as well to get the profile back and get the edges. So that's come up pretty good. So the next thing will be to do the return inside of there and sharpen up the edge where it goes from there to the front and from the front to that face there all the way around. Once we get them sharp, that's pretty much it. We can hook in and strip all the paint off, go through here where Dylan's welded up badge holes and stuff that aren't going excuse me, back on. A little bit of grinding left to do on them, they're a bit proud, and then we'll fill there and there, block it all, get that all right, and then we'll yeah, be right to hook into the second fender and get some paint on them. As far as the what do you call it, the water trap manifold, air manifold that we built, didn't get any water through the sander at all, and the compressor was working fairly hard because it's only the small compressor we were using. The reg on the wall, no air, no water coming out of that. The one down on the compressor, I'm assuming will have water in it because that was the run running directly off it. So, where are we? Some in that, not a great deal, but there was some. Turn that off. Now if we go over here, what do we got? Absolutely nothing in the water trap bowl. Nothing coming out of there. And down here at the taps, that one had some. And that one collected some. So as far as cheap cobbled together water trap, I'd say that's a winner. Now it is flimsy. I'll possibly look at getting a bit of board to strap between there and then, and then clamp those all on. So it's mounted on a wooden crossboard. This just unclips for transport. So when I take it to the Oldie's place to work on his car, we can move it around without bumping it. So that should work. And then once we get the shed cleaned up, we'll permanently mount it on the wall wherever we mount the compressors. So yeah, again, thanks for tuning in, thanks for hanging around. Today was a bit of a patchy one because of the weather, and we didn't really want to put the cars outside and get them all soaked. So I know it was a bit all over the place, but I really don't care because I finally got my tunnel ram. Okay, thanks for watching, and don't forget, give us a like, share and a subscribe if you can. And yeah, hopefully we've got a bit more content and a bit better weather next time. See yous.